Tom would book us into sports bars where beginning riders had to stand on the pool table and tell their completely self-absorbed, tragic stories to people who really did not give a shit.
I can't see you, Jose. It's too dark.
And that really separated from the people who wanted to be writers, from the people who became writers. So I've read in far, far worse places than this. That was a compliment. That's as good as it gets from me. Before I get started on the story, recently I gave away everything I had left over from the Fight Club movie. I had these beautiful blueprints of the Paper Street house, that big Victorian mansion. Those went to an auction for a young woman who was paralyzed in a car accident. So God bless her. And the screenplay, signed by the whole cast, went to my editor, Jerry Howard, yucking it up against the wall. And my prized possession. You know, you have one thing that you think, if there's a fire, I will risk it to go back for this thing. When they were shooting the movie in '98, I was teasing David Fincher that 20th Century Fox couldn't use IKEA furniture because of copyright violation. So they had to hire artists to make these beautiful, handmade versions of cheap crap IKEA furniture. And the yin-yang coffee table that cost $16 in the catalog cost over $2,000 to make by hand. They had to make 3. One of them was exploded in the big gas explosion. One of them was partially burned and placed in that pile of wreckage that you see when Edward Norton arrives at home at his building, the establishing shot outside. And the third one, the beauty one, is the one that you see in that panning shot as the IKEA catalog kind of assembles itself on screen. And after teasing David Fincher, when filming Wrapped, a huge crate showed up on my doorstep. And the yin-yang coffee table has sat in my office for over 10 years now. Wow. And in this economy, record numbers of dogs and cats are being put down. So that coffee table is going to be auctioned by a no-kill shelter called the Pixie Project. The auction will take place over this winter, over the fall. I think that they'll end the auction in November. But if you know anybody who would like to have a little expensive piece of movie history, then I scribbled notes on the underside of it just to authenticate it. That coffee table, you can see it at thepixieproject.com. You know, pixie like pixie. And all the money will go to saving the lives of dogs and cats. Well done. And now I'm going to read a story I wrote specifically for tour. There's already a film that's been shot of it. It's in post-production. Andy Mingo is making a film of it. He's editing right now. A little story called Romance. It was in the August Playboy.
Awesome. Stories.
Romance. You should congratulate me. My wife and I, we just had twins, and they seem okay. 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 little girls. But you know the feeling. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, because that's how it is when things get too happy. I keep expecting to wake up from this beautiful dream. I mean, back before I was married, I had this one girlfriend who was fat. We were both of us fat together, so we got along. That girlfriend, she was always testing us on new diets to lose weight, like eating nothing except for pineapple and vinegar, or nothing but green algae from an envelope. And she was suggesting we take these long walks together until she started to shed the pounds. Her hips just melted away. And you never saw anybody so happy. Even then, I knew that something would wreck it. You know the feeling. When you love somebody, you're happy to see her happy. But I knew my girlfriend was going to dump me, because now guys with careers and health insurance were getting her on their radar. I remembered that she was pretty and funny before, but now that she was getting so skinny, it was obvious that she possessed vast, untapped reserves of self-control and self-discipline way out of my league. And my friends weren't any help because they were all circling, waiting for us to call it quits so they could date her. And then it turned out it wasn't the pineapple or the self-discipline, because she found out she really had cancer. But she slimmed down to a bitchin' hot size 2.
That's what you say.
Just before she died. That is how I know that happiness is like a ticking bomb. And how I met my wife is because I wasn't going to date anybody, not anymore, no way. So I was taking the Amtrak to Austin. It was the year of Lollapalooza in Austin. And I packed my tent and I'd wrapped my sleeping bag to protect my bong so I could camp out all weekend like a Grizzly Adams. And I walked into the bar car on the train. And you know how sometimes you just need to leave the friends and the sobriety behind for a few days? I walked into the bar car and there's this total stone-cold fox pair of green eyes looking right directly at me. I'm not a monster. I'm not some reality show blimp stuck in a hospital bed eating buckets of fried chicken all day. But I can understand why guys would want to work as guards in women's prisons or concentration camps, where you could just date good-looking prisoners without those babes always saying, "Put a shirt on," and asking, "Do you always have to sweat so much?" But on the train, there's this goddess wearing a Radiohead t-shirt cut off to show her bare middle, and her jeans sag down to where there ought to be bush showing, and she's wearing Mickey Mouse and Holly Hobby rings around every finger, holding a beer to her beautiful lips, and looking at me down the length of that brown bottle, just an ordinary MGD, not some pussy microbrew in a green bottle. And guys like me, we know the score. Unless you're John Belushi or John Candy, no hottie is going to get you in that kind of an eye lock. So right away, I know enough to look away from her in shame. The only reason why a girl like her would talk to me is to break the news that I'm a gross fat pig and I'm blocking her entire view of the ocean. Know your limits, I always say. Aim low and you won't be disappointed. Edging past her? Edging past her, I look without looking. I check her out. She smells good, like some kind of dessert, like a baked pie, like a pumpkin pie with those red-brown spices on top. Better yet, the beer bottle in her mouth turns to follow me as I walk down the aisle to the bar and order a round, and it's not as if we're the last boy and the last girl in the whole world. A bunch of other people are drinking at the plastic tables, going to Lollapalooza from the look of their dreads and tie-dye. I walk all the way to the most far away table from her, but this hottie watches me go all the way. You know the feeling. When somebody's watching, you can't take one step without stumbling, especially on a moving around train. I go to take a drink as the train turns a corner and I spill some beer on my striped cowboy shirt. I'm pretending to watch the trees going by outside the window, but from a secret agent angle. I'm watching her reflection in the glass, and she's still watching me.